I've seen and experienced a lot over the last 7 decades in my career. I've met many interesting people, performed over 25,000 shows, and yes, even tuned in on the thoughts in the minds of over 1 million. But then, who's counting? Now, I'm telling you what really happened. Welcome to Kreskin's Amazing Experiences. This is Kreskin, and of course you know me as the Amazing Kreskin. I have set aside my original plan of what I was going to discuss today because of a situation that just broke in the past 6, 7, 8 days and came to fruition just 3 days ago in communications with the people who attended my program. My work, of course, deals with the mind. I perceive people's thoughts and I influence their behavior. Now, I want to stress something because this could become controversial in the news in the next few weeks. I'm not a healer. I have never claimed to be a healer. There's no doubt in my mind that some of the stories coming out will describe me as being a healer. But I'll explain why that should not be an appropriate description. And yet, I'm going to share with you one of the dramatic incidents of my career. Because things have happened on the stage with total strangers without any preparation or people I've ever met before. Recently, I had a program, a very intimate show, in which my audience was rather close to me. There was not a staging area, although people could come forward and face the audience when I attempted to read their thoughts or what have you. But in my program, I often show how powerful suggestions are and ideas can be. And one of my favorite tests that I've done in many a show is to cause a person's eyes to seal so that either they or the 20 other people, or in some cases the hundreds of others in the audience, cannot open their eyes. In this particular scenario that I'm going to describe to you, I simply had the audience make some notations. They each had a small little slip of paper, and they wrote a name, a note, what have you, on the paper. But the important thing is I don't collect the papers. They're not handed to me. They're a focal point that will enable the audience to tune in to what I'm doing. And as I spoke to them, there was almost a rhythm to some of the remarks I was making because I wanted those thoughts, those words to take shape. Now, it's not unusual during a presentation when I have 20, 30, or in the case of Carnegie Hall, 100 and some people on stage, for me to turn to the audience, or if it's an intimate nightclub appearance, the dozen or so people sitting on stage with me, simply to have them look down at their hands or their legs. And as I speak to them and talk to them, I can cause the elbows to start to move. I can cause the legs to start to charge and to shake. Then it can reach a point where if I tell the person to stand, they can't stand because somehow through the power of my suggestion, I've paralyzed the use of those muscles. But in many of the programs, I am simply casting suggestions to get my people to become more entranced, involved in what I'm saying, doing, and most of all, what I'm thinking. Something happened the other night, and it was the next day I was called by the family to explain it to me. One of the ladies in the audience who was jotting something down put the pencil down and just relaxed both her hands on her lap. She had written a name or a word. I don't even know what it was. And as I spoke, an uncanny phenomena took place. The first time, by the way, this happened was when I was in my teens. Because as I was speaking, the lady's right hand and arm started to rise out of her lap. And she couldn't control it. It stunned her. Her family, mother and father-in-law sitting next to her, almost blew their minds because the arm rose, and it was the right hand, and it rose about 6 inches into the air. Let me tell you why this is one of the most dramatic incidents I've ever experienced in my life. Because the last time this happened was during my television series, The Amazing World of Kreskin. And I had subjects on camera, and one of the subjects, like the others, responded in the same way. Except the difference between the subject on camera was the same difference between the one lady I'm speaking of in the audience. Her hand rose in the air, but it was the first time her hand rose in the air in 7 or 8 years because she was paralyzed. Her right arm was paralyzed for almost 8 years, and she had little or no use of the arm. In my conversations just yesterday and the day before, the family was extraordinarily moved. They came to see me, but they're asking adamantly not to publicize this. They had their own reasons. I respect that, since I had not intentionally attempted to heal her. But the bottom line is that after all these years, her right arm rose in the air. And now, and I heard from her just around 12 noon today, she has complete use of her right arm, something which the doctors and all the pills and all the chemistry and drugs were not able to help. It makes me think of my teens, early in my career, when in Caldwell, New Jersey, or a town outside of the city, I had a group of people on stage that were going to a university. And believe it or not, as the audience started screaming and a couple of parents got hysterical, I realized that during this test, as I caused everyone's arm to rise out of their lap, a young lady in the audience, who then became a very dear friend for many years as I've known her, her arm rose out of her lap, and she had been paralyzed and had no use of the arm all those years. As far as this gal is concerned, please understand this. I am not a healer. It is just that somehow I tapped in to the unconscious mind, where the nervous system was part of the complexity of what took place in the misuse or the lack of use of her right hand. You could have said many, many other techniques could have done the same thing for her, but this was the first and the only time, and it's an exciting success to be able to share with you. But let me also repeat, please don't misunderstand me. I am not a healer. I tune in and often expand the great potentials of the human mind.